government says it will have to maintain fiscal and debt sustainability as it embarks on a new extended fund facility arrangement with the International Monetary Fund. This time around, Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley says the focus will be on growth. According to the Prime Minister, the implementation of reforms at state-owned enterprises, including establishing public-private partnerships, will be a critical feature of the revised program.
We've also indicated that the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation cannot continue as it is. The truth is that technology has effectively made the CBC's mission difficult, almost irrelevant in some instances, because we live in a world of narrowcasting as opposed to broadcasting. Each of us will pick up our phone, pick up our computers, and watch what we want to watch, and don't have to worry about free-to-air national television. So those models cannot continue with business as usual.
Prime Minister Motley has also touched on the Transport Board.
We already see where it is going with a number of private owners in the TAP program, the Transport Augmentation Program, which the government started before COVID. And I am aware that the Deputy Prime Minister has been meeting with the sector and has also been putting us in a position where she will continue the discussions with the unions with respect to us moving to a mass transit authority that will allow for the effective regulation of what is already predominantly a private-run sector.
The Prime Minister has outlined several pillars which will underpin government's growth strategy. With authorities close to overcoming hiccups with the regulatory environment for the renewable energy sector, she expects to see a massive unleashing of projects from the beginning of next year. Low and middle income housing is also a focus, and 350 Juravilla homes from Guyana should be available in a few months. Prime Minister Motley has also acknowledged a need to do better with the country's existing sectors, including tourism.
A lot of the hotels that exist now cannot pay our bills in the third decade of the 21st century, and we therefore need to be able to ensure that there are opportunities for the owners of those establishments to access affordable capital and to renew their product, even if it means demolishing and building and having greater density, and ensuring that not only can they earn more because of greater density, but they can command a higher average daily rate because of the renewed quality of the experience. We hope to work with the Africa Exim Bank in order to be able to make this a reality in terms of amplifying the source of funds for our tourism sector.
During her more than 2-hour-long presentation, Prime Minister Motley also disclosed a digital bank has been granted a license and is expected to begin operating early next year. While government is moving to introduce a new immigration bill in a bid to reverse the declining population, she says Barbados will not do citizenship by investment. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Let's go further afield now. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has appealed to the leaders of the group of 7 countries for more air defense capabilities as the world's wealthiest democracies pledge to support Kyiv for as long as it takes. Their virtual G7 meeting was held yesterday, a day after missiles rained down on cities across Ukraine.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has asked the group to supply Kyiv with air defense weapons, something he described as his #1 priority. The meeting comes as Russia continues to target several Ukrainian cities with missiles. And speaking ahead of a meeting of NATO defense ministers, the Western Alliance's Secretary General said NATO will stand with Kyiv for as long as it takes.
Ukraine has the momentum and continues to make significant gains, while Russia is increasingly resorting to horrific and indiscriminate attacks on civilians and critical infrastructure. President Putin is failing in Ukraine. His attempted annexations, partial mobilization and reckless nuclear rhetoric represents the most significant escalation since the start of the war. And they show that this war is not going as planned.
Meanwhile, although Russia has ordered more airstrikes against Ukraine, citizens there are getting their life back to normal amidst being in alert mode.
Kiev's residents are jumpier now. The day after the worst Russian airstrike since the beginning of the war, many are taking the air raid warnings more seriously. Last week, most would have ignored the sirens. On Tuesday morning, the metro was filled with people taking shelter.
I get scared because we didn't think it will happen again in the downtown. It is terrorism. You understand that you are not safe at home even if there are no infrastructural objects nearby. 2 walls and basement will not save you.
But what do people in Kiev do as soon as the all-clear is given? Easy. Coffee in the sunshine. Anton runs 1900 Coffee in central Kiev. For him, opening as soon as he can is a duty to his employees, his customers and his country.
Why is this important? We are responsible for those who work for us. The business must keep working. Our regular guests keep coming to us, even during the last 2 days. Also, we continue to pay taxes and contribute a part to the country's budget. If we all close, it seems to me we will no longer be able to sign arms contracts and help our army to liberate the country.
For Ukraine's government, getting back to normal as quickly as possible is a vital part of the war effort. Electricity must be restored, glass cleared and missile craters filled. Everything that's been destroyed will be rebuilt, President Zelensky says. Well, look at this intersection where several people were killed on Monday. The repair work is already well underway. Resilience is defiance, and defiance, Ukrainians believe, will win them the war.
Well, coming up on the morning report, we get an assessment on the local insurance industry as other parts of the region and the U.S. reel in the aftermath of some monster storms. And we check in with the SJPI after an altercation there led to one boy being injured and needing urgent attention. Details to these and other stories coming up right here on the morning report. An assurance this morning, the Samuel Jackman Institute of Technology continues to be a safe learning environment for all of its students. It comes from Principal Ian Drakes after a stabbing incident there which occurred yesterday afternoon. That incident brought classes to a standstill as police and ambulance personnel responded to the incident, which reportedly involved a student of the institution. Mr. Drakes explained these situations are uncommon on the campus.
We at the SJPI treat this with the severity of which it has occurred, and we want to appeal to the family to let the police service do their due diligence as it relates to the investigations of this matter so that we can come to an amicable solution at the SJPI. Because we here pride ourselves in training our youth for the trades which we know that they can do so well in. This is not an everyday occurrence at the SJPI. And so I want to let the public know that your children are safe at the SJPI.
The principal says the SJPIT continues to fulfill its goal of providing quality education to students in a safe environment. He reassures that the management of the school remains committed to the safety of its students and to a resolution.
Our securities pride themselves in making sure that you are kept in the best conditions that we can allow at all times. Management will investigate and will seek resolution to this situation. As I said, it is not a common occurrence, and so we want to alleviate any fears to all those parents out there. As we send our children to the SJPI on a daily basis, we want you to know that we will do all in our powers to give them the best care and attention on a continuous basis.
The local insurance industry is closely monitoring developments in Florida and other countries heavily impacted by Hurricane Ian, just in case the fallout results in reinsurance pressures on the wider market in the region. While assessments are still being made in the wake of the hurricane, there is a possibility the cost of insurance could be impacted. This is according to the president of the General Insurance Association of Barbados, Randy Graham, who says local insurance officials are hoping they can avoid that scenario.
Everyone is worried about the loss of life that we saw in Hurricane Ian and the amount of damage that it caused to Florida and other places, Puerto Rico and other places. But I think the issue for us in the Caribbean is really the restriction of reinsurance capacity and the hope that that does not create pressure to increase the price of insurance in the Caribbean market. We are struggling with the cost of living increases in Barbados and the Caribbean right now. But if we do get reinsurance capacity restrictions, typically that leads to increased prices on motor, on property and other types of insurance, which is the situation that we're doing our best to avoid.
The GIAB president adds the insurance-related costs are still coming in for the devastation in Florida.
So Ian is going to cause about 30 billion US in damage. We've already seen 140 people unfortunately lost their life, and these are things that we have to contemplate seriously in the Caribbean because it can come very close to home. For us in the Caribbean, it is likely going to mean that global reinsurers are going to struggle with these events. We're going to see restrictions in capacity, reinsurance capacity for the Caribbean region, which tends to lead to increased prices. Of course, we all need to work together to control these prices. But for us, the main issue really is to get more people in the Caribbean better prepared for stronger hurricanes because the intensity and the frequency of these hurricanes is increasing.
Thousands of people in the crisis-torn Haitian capital have taken to the streets of Port-au-Prince against the government's decision to seek foreign military assistance to quell gang-related violence there. We have a report.
Crowds of people move through the Haitian capital, Port-au-Prince. They're angry over a rising cost of living and a lack of jobs, and the Prime Minister's decision to ask for help from other countries to calm unrest. This man shouting against the need for foreign troops. The police respond with tear gas.
Unemployment, the high cost of living, insecurity. It is for all these reasons that I'm in the street.
Haiti's economy has almost ground to a halt since a coalition of gangs blocked a major fuel terminal last month. The lack of gas and diesel has crippled transport and forced businesses and hospitals to close. The Prime Minister has asked for UN and international help in the form of troops.
He urged the international community, including members of the Security Council, to consider as a matter of urgency the request by the Haitian government for the immediate deployment of an international specialized armed force to address the humanitarian crisis.
The latest unrest has also led to a lack of clean drinking water. That has caused an outbreak of cholera. The last case was reported 3 years ago, following an outbreak in 2010 linked to UN peacekeepers. 10,000 people died as a result. Many people in Haiti say international support has never helped them before, and they want the Prime Minister to resign.
So, This request is an unconstitutional act. This is an act against the state. It is an action against the Haitian people's demands who want a free country where everyone can eat, have health care, and live like human beings.
Haiti has had 12 prime ministers since an earthquake in 2010 flattened homes and infrastructure in many areas. Since then, the country has received more than $13 billion in aid. However, most are still struggling to even afford food and clean water.
Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness has made clear his intention to take legislative action against producers and dealers of Molly. There are concerns there and across the country about its use by the youth. CVM Television reports.
The Office of the Prime Minister says a situational assessment undertaken in May by the National Council on Drug Abuse, NCDA, points to a growing trend in the use of Molly, also known as ecstasy, particularly among the youth. According to the NCDA, the impact of the drug has manifested in increased socially risky and physically dangerous behavior. OPM says, considering the national implications, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has directed that the laws around these psychoactive substances be amended to adequately capture the threat they pose and hold accountable producers and traffickers. However, consultant addiction psychiatrist Dr. Winston Delahaye tells CVM Live this is one effective supply reduction method, stressing there also needs to be demand reduction.
There are two large arms to addressing this situation. One, demand reduction, and that's aimed at decreasing the number of persons using substances. And the second, supply reduction, which is aimed at reducing the availability, the supply of substances. We need to be aware that both approaches are required if we're going to be effective. If you have no users, then there will be nothing to be gained in supplying anything. So the root of prevention lies in education at the level of the family. And if parents don't know, or as in our situation, unfortunately, are absent, then the schools must pick up the slack, in addition to appropriate public education prevention programs by groups like the National Council on Drug Abuse.
He adds that early childhood education must include the existence of and risks associated with alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use, including Molly.
Let's get some sports now as we focus on the T20 World Cup and the warm-up matches being played. The West Indies were expected to do battle with the Netherlands this morning at 4 a.m. However, the match was abandoned, the match in Melbourne abandoned there without a ball being bowled. We'll have more details on why in subsequent newscasts. Meanwhile, England are in action against England in another warm-up match, and they're doing pretty well. England making 178 for 7 of their 20 overs, led by a blistering knock from David Malan. He scored 82 from 49 deliveries. Moeen Ali was the next. He was the next man at the crease, making a notable score, 44 of 27 balls. So 178 for 7. Marcus Stoinis, he took 3 for 34 off his 4 overs. In reply, Australia right now 22 for 1 off 4 overs. The man to lose his wicket, Aaron Finch, bowled Billy Stokes, 13 of 13 balls. Warner is at the crease along with Mitch Marsh. So that T20 warm-up match, we'll keep you updated on that as well at 7. And of course, we will give you the results on sport in our sports segment of CBC Newsday. Well, that's a wrap on sports for this morning. Let's look at weather now. The temperature right now is 27.1 degrees Celsius. It's fair on the outside and slightly hazy. It's feeling like 32 degrees Celsius. That's because the relative humidity is up to 82%. The barometric pressure is 1012.6 millibars, and those winds are coming out of the east at 23 kilometers per hour. We'll get a low tide this morning at about 18 minutes to 11. There will be a high tide in the afternoon at 4 minutes after 5. The seas are moderate in open water. Swells are right now peaking at 2 meters and holding steady. Today in Barbados, it will be partly sunny with a few brief isolated light showers. And tonight, as conditions improve across Barbados, it will be partly cloudy with a few brief isolated light showers. And here's how it's looking in some of our selected international cities. And that's my time for this edition of the CBC Morning Report. I'm Shane Seeley. I'll see you at 7 with headline news. But coming up is Tisha Hines with Morning Barbados.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning.
And good morning to you on this Wednesday, October 12th, 2022. Welcome to Morning Barbados. So good to have you in company with us. Thanks for joining us, whether you're online or you're watching on CBC TV 8. It's great to have you making that choice to be with us on CBC TV 8 for this edition of Morning Barbados. We will, of course, have an update of the news for you at 7 o'clock with headline news. So whatever your plans are for today, I most certainly hope that you're well prepared and you got lots of rest. I don't know, today was, you know, just one of those days for those of us here in the studio. So I don't know if it was the same for you. I know a previous host used to refer to it as hump day. It certainly feels like a lot to get over today. Definitely true to the name. So make sure that it is not that type of day for you. If you have to get the children out and about and out to school and you have to get off to work, get out of the house. If you're just retired and maxing and relaxing today, why not enjoy? Let's spend some time together. So we have a great show planned for you, and coming up today is Caribbean Holocaust Day and the International Day for Reparation. We're going to tell you a whole lot more about that. Also, we told you we were going to speak to some Chevening scholars and talk about the entire scheme. We'll also meet some alumnus from the Chevening Scholar Program. So you'll want to stick around for that, particularly if you have some younger people who are looking forward to maybe doing a second degree or what have you. This is definitely a very, very interesting option for them. We're also going to tell you about Q in the community. Q is back in a big way, and you want to make sure that you head out every Thursday to be a part of Q. Then let's talk HR. Davina Lane is going to be in to talk a little bit more about something called onboarding. Something new rather than what we're accustomed to when you go into a new organization. You usually hear, oh, we're going to welcome you to the organization. But why is it important to do onboarding as opposed to what was done before? We'll talk a bit more about what's happening in that regard. And we have our Doc Talk coming up, where we're talking small kidney masses. Might seem like a small issue, but it is absolutely major in this part of the world, so you will want to stick around for that discussion. It's now just about 29 minutes before 7 o'clock, and we're going to go ahead and welcome our very first guest, His Excellency Benny Wenda, to Morning Barbados. And it's wonderful to have you with us this morning. Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Now, today is Caribbean Holocaust Day and the International Day for Reparations. And, you know, it is marked today. You are visiting from today until Thursday. So tell us a little bit, first of all, about what brings you to our shores.
Yes, I think Barbados is the right place to be here. I was here last nearly 10 years, since 2012 until now I'm here, because today also day of the Indigenous Liberation Day, and I think that is why I'm here, invited by the West Papua Committee led by the Reverend Badi Laria. So this opportunity, I'm coming here to meeting with the committee and hopefully meeting some officials here. So I think Barbados is heart of the world, and also is important place because the Barbados understands about where I'm coming from, and West Papua is a tip of the Pacific, and I'm coming in Barbados also. It's like reunite the family, mostly Africa descendants, like me, like mine in the Pacific. And people, they don't know where is Melanesia. Melanesia is located in the Pacific and in the Caribbean. So why I'm here is very important to share my experience and my story about the liberation movement my people are fighting for, the colonialism, imperialism, racism, discrimination, and modern slavery slaved by the Indonesian military. And Indonesia colonized back in 1960, and 500,000 men and women has been killed just because we have been different, because we've been black, because we've been, they call us go home in African monkey, they call. So that's why I'm here to share my story with all the friends in Barbados.
And you've been here a few times, as you mentioned, but this is your first time here since you've been named interim president. How has that changed your approach to how you're going to be able to share the message of the West Papuan people?
Yes, since this is my second time I came back, I'm meeting with His Excellency former Prime Minister, and so he's welcoming me, and so that was giving me hope that people of Barbados understand, and also why it's important, because the struggle of the liberation is very important to share. And since then, like Barbados also campaigning for the liberation of West Papua, particularly led by the West Papua Committee here.
Tell us a little bit about West Papua, though, because for Barbadians who have not heard about this place, you're certainly sharing a lot with us. So, if you can share a little bit more about the place, how it looks, its people, things like that, so our people understand where and what we're talking about.
Yes, West Papua is a western half of the New Guinea. New Guinea is a whole island called New Guinea. Eastern half is used to British colony. Now they got independent, whole country called Papua New Guinea. Western half is a Dutch colony, and Dutch colony. After that, Indonesia invaded. When the Dutch left, Indonesia invaded illegally. So now we are under the Indonesian colony. This is, we are talking about back in 1960. So we under Indonesian colony, and nobody knows what's going on, what's happening in West Papua. This is the black people. The 95% are black people. And the West Papua is the richest on the earth in terms of gold and copper and oil and gas. That's why the world hide this issue under the carpet. They're trying to get away with the impunity with Indonesian government. That's why it's important for me to travel to the world. I was in West Papua leading peacefully. I was put in prison 25 years, and they want to kill me. I managed to run away. Just like Nelson Mandela, he led the peacefully anti-apartheid movement in South Africa. They call him terrorist, a criminal. And Indonesia accused me as a rebel, but I'm leading peacefully. But back then, I was nearly killed 3 times. That's why I managed to run away to England, and now I have been granted political asylum. Since then, I lobbied to many places. I've been here, I've been Jamaica, and still recently. So just seeking their support because most of the Caribbean and Africa continent, they understood where I'm coming from because our forefather across the continent in Africa or in Caribbean, they fought for the liberate themselves from the British Empire. That's why I always come to Barbados. It's like become a home now. I hope that one day Barbados people to help me, and I want to go home with a free man. And West Papua, as you know, this is African descendant who were left before anybody else on the planet. So that's why I'm coming back to seeking support for my brother, sister across the Caribbean and Africa to liberate me because West Papua is the last colony on the planet Earth.
Now, I know that you're here for a bit of business as well, so we'll talk a little bit later about maybe a few of the lighter things that you'll be doing. But what do you hope will be the ultimate outcome of your visit here? I know that there's been a petition for quite some time for you to get some support at the level of the United Nations. And what do you believe that support can do for you and your people?
Yes. The political level, we already successful. For example, ACP, Africa, Caribbean, Pacific, they already passed the motion in meeting in Kenya 2019, December. I was there, and I know the Prime Minister, His Excellency Mia Modley was there, and that they're pushing this resolution, UNI Commissioner visit to West Papua, look themselves what happening, what's going on. But Indonesia reluctant, not allow to UNI Commissioner. Even European commissions already called. Almost 80 countries, British and Australia, also Spain and Netherlands are calling. But Indonesia not allow. I hope that CARICOM could also add their voice, and I will also lobby in Africa Union to put pressure more to Indonesia government to allow UNI Commissioner visit. If Indonesia claims to be the democratic country, then why United Nations not allow to visit West Papua? This is ACP, Africa, Caribbean, Pacific are calling, demand the UNI Commissioner visit. So I hope that Barbados government could more put pressure on the Indonesia and UNI Commission to allow to investigate what's really happening, what really going on. Because West Papua is Indonesia committed genocide, just within different.
A lot of people will argue that the rekindling of sorts or the building of this relationship, the ACP relationship as it is often referred to, is long overdue. So it's definitely good to have you with us this morning, sharing a little bit more. And we certainly hope that we pique the interest at least of the people here in Barbados who maybe have never heard of West Papua, so that we look a little further into our neighbors as we move forward. Now, on the lighter side of things, I know you're here for some business, but having been to Barbados quite a bit, tell us some of the recreational things that you're able to do if you have any time to share with us.
Yes, I think Barbados, I've been few places, and I'm going to a museum, for example. I want to see the history because I seen that Barbados sugarcane first colonial power brought from the New Guinea. So that means the first connections already happened. So that's why this is not accident. I'm here, and I know the people of Barbados are welcoming people, and I hope that one day West Papua free, Barbados people are part of their history, because the history human being make history, and that's why it's important for me to be here, and I will go to meet the other community as well while I'm here. Thank you.
And I want to thank you for sharing with us. Most certainly, I think this can be the start of a great communication connection as well, because this is a good way to share between our people, and maybe we will be able to set up some type of connection so that you not only share here, but we're able to share there as well. So thank you so much for coming on this early in the morning and sharing with us.
Thank you.
I'd also like to give you an opportunity to give any last message that you would to the Barbadian people, anyone of influence that is listening, about what your intentions are and why you're here, to summarize everything that we've talked about.
My message will be simple. I hope that Barbados young generation and elderly people and brothers, sisters, I really need your support to liberate my people from the Indonesian colonialism, because without your support my people never free, and that is the black people becoming minority their own land. Maybe they just sisters. There is a black people and live in New Guinea Island and western half of New Guinea, just like what happening in North America, and European Empire oppressed. But this is why I'm here, and please pray for my people, and I hope one day I'm coming to, when West Papua independent, I will invite, and this is relation long-term, short-term, so I hope one day will West Papua free, I will invite everyone to come to West Papua to see. That is your land, you need to reclaim it. That's your ancestors, that's your people. Thank you very much.
I look forward to it. His Excellency Benny Wenda, Interim President of West Papua, sharing with us this morning. It's time for us to take a break on Morning Barbados, the first one for the show. But when we come back, we have lots more to discuss and lots more to share with you. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 14 minutes before 7 o'clock. Make that move if you have to get out of the house. I don't know. What are you having for breakfast this morning? Mixing it up, maybe. I know a lot of Barbadians love to have a cup of tea. But if you can, sit in and have a little breakfast. How about that? Go right ahead. And make sure you use some local produce as well. Well, we're going to move right into our next setup for the morning and welcome Craig Fulton, who is the acting British High Commissioner to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Gilly Metzgen, who is political and Chevening scholar, and Shaquille Newton, a 2021 Chevening scholar. And we are talking about promoting the scholarship program. So good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having us on.
All right. Well, good morning. Let me start with you, Mr. Fulton. Tell us a little bit about the program. We've heard from quite a few of the scholars over the years, and everybody says the same thing. It really is a task, and it keeps them on edge, and I think that's a good thing. So let's talk a little bit about this scholarship and what you've been doing throughout the years.
Sure. Well, thank you again for having us on. And it's a task. It's a great opportunity, really, though, for the future leaders of Barbados, really. And that's what we're looking for here. We're looking to try and identify those people who have got the acumen to go on and really be in positions of leadership and influence in the future in Barbados. So the Chevening Scholarship Programme is the flagship scholarship programme for the UK, for the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. We run it across 160 countries of the world, and including obviously in here in Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. We've got about 14, I think we've got 14 scholarships for next year on this, and they're for master's degrees. But they cover every cost for the masters. So all the tuition fees, flights, there's a monthly stipend, any thesis fees, all of these are covered. I think there's one limit on MBAs are limited to about £22,000 a year, but other than that, everything's covered, all fees. And as I say, we're really looking for those future leaders to come forward and apply for this. And the subjects can be in absolutely anything. Any field that they want to study, and at any UK university. You apply online, you apply for 3 courses, and then we look at those, and Gilly leads our programme of narrowing that down and taking forward the interviews to try and identify those applicants that are really going to take forward this opportunity really and make the most of it for themselves and for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean countries that they're from in the future. So Shaquille, as you mentioned, Shaquille Newton was our scholar last year from Barbados. We've got one scholar this year. Rennie Critchlow is our scholar that's there this year. But we've had so many influential scholars in the past, and I keep bumping into them all over Barbados when I'm out and about, and I've bumped into them on your program before when I've been in the past years and met people there as well. But they include Carol Martindale, was a previous scholar, the chief editor from the Nation newspapers. We've got Caribbean Court of Justice judges. We've got the Deputy Police Commissioner for Barbados. Erwin Boyce was also a Chevening scholar. And further afield in St. Lucia, Dr. Jimmy Fletcher, who's obviously a big figure in the climate change discussions. He was also a Chevening scholar in the past. And when you do this, you join a big community as well, a big alumni community, 50,000 worldwide and several hundred here in Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean as well. So when you return, it gives you lots of opportunities for networking and taking things forward there. So it's a brilliant opportunity, I would say, and to any sort of postgraduate students out there looking for a master's, I would say just take this opportunity, apply, and you too could be in the UK having all these wonderful opportunities.
It definitely, sounds like a lot of pressure on your shoulder when you call some of those names of past people who have been beneficiaries of the scholarship. Now, Jilly mentioned you are the political and Chevening officer. Walk us through the process, the application process. We've heard is quite rigorous, but I'm sure you probably won't agree. But tell us a little bit about the actual process of applying.
I'd love to do that, thank you. Yes, I am the Chevening officer, and the application period is currently open until the 1st of November. All applicants should go to the website www.chevening.org, and you will find some very straightforward apply area, which then leads you to a form which has got some basic information, which is pretty straightforward, names and addresses. The people should fill that in as accurately as possible. But then the critical thing is 4 essay questions. These are 500-word essays around networking, around leadership and influencing, your career plans, and also why somebody wants to study in the UK. Now, these are critical, and people need to take these very seriously. They shouldn't just think you can start applying and whiz it off in the night and then bang, submit, and it's all done. Please take time to do these essays with great care. And then finally, you need to have chosen your universities, 3 courses at universities in the UK. You don't need to have applied to them to submit your application, but you need to have identified them so that you know where you want to be going. I mean, that's essentially what successful Chevening scholars know where they're going, they know what they want to be achieving, and by and large, they achieve. So that's a sort of short summary. One final plea is that people, although the application period closes on the 1st of November, please don't wait until the 31st of October to send your application in to submit it online. If you think that there are 160 countries all around the world, and there are probably thousands of people all around the world doing exactly the same, it sometimes means that you might not be able to submit at that last moment. And then, of course, once you cannot submit by the close of play, that's it. You can't submit this year, so you'd have to wait another year. So please do apply in good time. Thanks very much.
That definitely is some good advice, especially since here in Barbados we're known to be last-minute people, but we'll talk about that in a moment as we head on over to you, Shaquille Newton, who was a Chevening Scholar for 2021. Talk to us about why you applied and what your experience has been like so far.
Hi, good morning.
Good
well,
morning.
it was always a desire of mine to study in the United Kingdom. I did my first degree, my LLB at University of Campus, and then I got very interested in that in law school, and I learned about the scholarship. My brother was a past scholar, and I decided to take a chance. I applied, I put my heart and soul into the essays and into the interview, and at the end of the day I was successful and I landed this amazing scholarship that totally changed my life. It is a wonderful and fantastic experience, and I would encourage every person that has a desire to study in the United Kingdom to apply to this scholarship.
What are your hopes moving forward? You said you did your LLB and you're moving forward in that particular area, but talk to us about your plans for the future, since this particular program focuses so much on future leaders.
Okay, so right now I am Legislative Crown Counsel in the Office of the Chief Parliamentary Counsel of the Attorney General's Chambers of Barbados. So I've returned to work, and my short-term plans right now are to hone my skills practically within the office. Right now, legislation is very current to address a lot of societal issues. So I plan to use my skill set to the best of my ability to assist my country right now.
Application process like for you? I don't expect you to admit it, but were you staring down the barrel of a calendar as well, looking toward the last days as you look toward your application?
No, I was not. I actually finished my essays pretty early and submitted them about 2 weeks before the deadline. And I would encourage other applicants to do the same. As Ms. Medskin said, the essays do take quite some thought. So I would encourage everyone to start as early as possible, give yourself the benefit of the time to actually go through your essays, refine them, and then submit a good finished product.
What advice would you offer to anyone who is viewing this morning, who is hearing about it for the first time, or might be thinking, after listening to you, this might be something good for me? What advice would you offer?
My best advice would be to be your authentic self when you're writing your essays. Do your research on your universities and have realistic career plans. Also, all of us Chevening scholars, we're very approachable. I live to help others, and you may contact me via my social media accounts, and I am willing to assist anyone in the process of applying.
I'm going to give the acting High Commissioner and the political and Chevening officer an opportunity to give their last words on, why they believe this is an excellent program for people who are forward-thinking and who are the leaders of next, why they should move forward with the application. Starting with you, Acting British High Commissioner.
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, I'd just say that the opportunity here is to study at any UK university on a postgrad degree. So, that speaks for itself, really. You got the chance to access some of the best universities in the world. And, you know, so many of the UK universities are in the top 10, top 100. So you've got that opportunity to get the you know, access to great learning and then bring it back here and apply it to your future and to the future of your country. So, and I would just say, you know, anybody out there who's thinking, oh, you know, I'm not sure, just apply. You know, somebody has to get these scholarships and work on those essays. Don't leave it too long, as Shaquille and Jilly have said. But work on those, get that in, and you too could be the next Shaquille heading off to the UK to study at a great institution.
And Ms. Mesjin, I cannot imagine what your days are like, taking in applications from 160 countries. What advice would you give based on what you've seen over the years for those who are applying? I know you talked about getting the essay in early and spending some time with it, but what other advice can you share?
I think I would agree with Shaquille. Be authentic, be yourself. And if you're going to say you are the leader of tomorrow, give us nice examples and proof of what's happened in your life, which makes you think that you are going to be a leader of tomorrow. We want examples and proper achievable plans for the future. And then good luck to everybody. And by the way, I don't do 160 countries, just 7. Thank heavens. 7 is enough.
But that point Jilly was saying about giving us examples of your leadership potential in your future is very important, because that's ultimately what we're looking for here, as I said, the future leaders. So show that to us in your applications.
Yeah. And it most certainly would be remiss of me if I didn't ask you to at least warn them, for those of them who've maybe not traveled to the UK, about the weather.
It's always, people always talk about the weather. Just wear layers. It's fine. It really is.
It's varied weather. It's varied weather. You know, it's good to have variety in life.
Definitely.
Yeah. You just hear everything is straight and everything will be wonderful.
Oh, definitely sounds like I'm about to write an essay myself. I want to thank all of you for sharing. It most certainly has been wonderful speaking with you this morning, and I am happy that we can share all of this information from the inside out and from people who've gone through it about the Chevening Scholarship, so that we can get the best minds out there applying and certainly bringing that knowledge back to this region. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, and we certainly will continue to tell you more about that. Believe it or not, the time has already moved on to 7 o'clock. Coming up, we're going to have headline news with Shane Seeley. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, just after 7 o'clock, and we have some family connections that we're going to share with you. Of course, Shaquille, who was on a moment ago, is related to the young man who's coming up next with headline news. Shane Seeley, how about that?
Yeah, indeed. It's always good seeing them. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Here's your headline news for this Wednesday morning. 2 men, one of them who escaped police custody last week, have been added to the police wanted list. They are Ornal Holder, that's Ornal Holder, alias is Nelly, who escaped police custody last Thursday, and 19-year-old Jafari Anthony Ramsey. Well, Holder's last known addresses: Cumberbatch Road, Fairfield Road, Blackrock, St. Michael. He's approximately 5 feet 5 inches tall, of brown complexion, and has a slim build. Meanwhile, Jafari Ramsey He goes by the alias Farai, and he is wanted for questioning in connection with serious criminal matters. His last known address is Block 2F, Silverhill, Christchurch. Holder and Ramsey are advised that they can present themselves to the police accompanied by an attorney at law of their choice. Anyone knowing the whereabouts of Orenile Holder and Jafari Ramsey are asked to contact the police emergency number 211 Crime Stoppers at 1-800-8477, or you can call the nearest police station. Well, heavy downpours have again led to water outages and low pressure for some residents in parts of St. George and St. John connected to the Bowmanston pumping station. The Barbados Water Authority was forced to take the facility offline for a second time in as many weeks yesterday to avoid a repeat of discolored water entering the network. Some of the areas affected in St. John include Bathland, Carters, Cherry Grove, Cheshire, Cliff Cottage, Coach Hill, Codrington, Gall Hill, Lemon Arbor, Massaz Street, Poolland, Sargent Street, Sherburne, Henley, Rosegate, Moorsland, Haynes Hill, Stewart Hill, and Society Hill. Also affected were the communities of the Glebe, Guinealand, Macaroni Village, Ashbury, Wakefield, Tenantry, and surrounding areas in St. George. Water tankers have been dispatched to service impacted communities. Residents are being reminded to check the BWA's social media platforms, that's on Instagram and Facebook, for further updates. The Samuel Jackman Institute of Technology continues to be a safe learning environment for its students. This assurance is coming from the principal Ian Drakes after a stabbing incident there, which occurred yesterday afternoon. That incident brought classes to a standstill as police and ambulance personnel responded to the incident, which reportedly involved a student of the institution. Mr. Drakes explains these situations are uncommon on the campus.
We at the SJPI treat this with the severity of which it has occurred, and we want to appeal to the family to let the police service do their due diligence as it relates to the investigations of this matter, so that we can come to an amicable solution at the SJPI. Because we here pride ourselves in training our youth for the trades which we know that they can do so well in. This is not an everyday occurrence at the SJPI, and so I want to let the public know that your children are safe at the SJPI.
The local insurance industry is closely monitoring developments in Florida and other countries heavily impacted by Hurricane Ian, just in case the fallout results in reinsurance pressures on the wider market in the region. While assessments are still being made in the wake of the hurricane, there is a possibility the cost of insurance could be impacted. This is according to the president of the General Insurance Association of Barbados, Randy Graham, who says local insurance officials are hoping they can avoid that scenario.
Everyone is worried about the loss of life that we saw in Hurricane Ian and the amount of damage that it caused to Florida and other places, Puerto Rico and other places. But I think the issue for us in the Caribbean is really the restriction of reinsurance capacity and the hope that that does not create pressure to increase the price of insurance in the Caribbean market. We are struggling with the cost of living increases in Barbados and the Caribbean right now. But if we do get reinsurance capacity restrictions, typically that leads to increased prices on motor, on property and other types of insurance, which is the situation that we're doing our best to avoid.
And before we go, just an update for you. Remember that match that was supposed to be played this morning between the West Indies and the Netherlands. That has been abandoned without a ball being bowled. Meanwhile, in other warm-up T20 matches for the World Cup, England doing battle against Australia. England making 178 for 7, and in response, Australia are 92 for 4 at the crease right now. Mitch Marsh, he's on 37 of 23 balls not out, and joining him is the hard-hitting Tim David as they chase down that 170 plus 178 to win their target 179. We'll keep you updated, and of course we'll have further details in subsequent newscasts. And that's it for the CBC headline news. I'm Shane Seeley. It's back over to you, Tishia.
Thank you so much, Shane. And I hope you have a wonderful day today. This is the only time I get to see you early in the morning.
That is not true, Tisha. That is not true. That is not true.
What's not true? I get to see you at other times?
Of course. And as I said,
are you bringing tales out of school?
Yes, I am. I am. But and speaking about Shaquille and Stefan, I don't know if they have made history. I'm pretty sure they would have, because they have to be the first twin to have been successive Chevening scholars. I'm pretty sure.
Well, when Shaquille told me that his brother, was the scholar before, I thought he was speaking about maybe an older brother who done it a few years before. Yeah. I never once thought it was his twin brother who was a Chevening scholar the year before. So very, very impressive. Indeed, and both of them went to Combermere with two of my other first cousins. Course. Yeah, and Combermere, we are celebrating this month, the end of the month. We are going to pass by the sales office and just pay for that ad when you go out. Anything for up and on. Anything. You have a good day, Tishia. You too. Always great to see you, Shane. A pleasure. All right, so Morning Barbados continues. It is now 8 minutes after 7 o'clock. I don't know what your big plans are for today, but you want to make sure that you get moving, because the traffic has gotten a little lighter. I don't know if you've recognized that, but maybe it was because, the parents with the children heading out to the new secondary schools or what have you, showing them the way, taking them to school the first few weeks, and then maybe they're taking public transport or what have you. So I found that the traffic is not as heavy as it was the first few weeks of school. But that doesn't mean that you should leave home any later. So make sure that you get out of the house and get there on time. All right. Right now we are going to tell you about the amazing queue in the community. We are back and in full force. For a little while there, we had to put Q on the back burner because of the pandemic and everything that was going on. And you were having, Q in the community every now and then, even though you were still able to enjoy the reruns on television, on CBC TV8, as well as online. But we know you love Q in the community. So when we come back, we're going to tell you all about what is happening this Thursday and how you can be a part of it.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 11 minutes after 7 o'clock on another rainy day. I can't remember a time where we've had so much rain, so many days consecutively in Barbados. I don't know if you do remember. A few years ago we did, but I don't know. We usually don't get rain so many days in a row. Can't complain though, the earth needs it. So a special good morning to all of the farmers out there who are saying, yes, we need a little water for the wonderful plants and so on to grow, and of course the food. But for those people like me who the grass comes up really quickly, it's like rainwater really makes the grass grow, right? I know you absolutely agree. All right, so we're telling you all about Q in the community. I know you can't wait to go out, and a lot of people are going to be complaining because the grannies are going to be out. You won't have your babysitters. We are heading up to Worthing Square on Thursday because Q in the community is back. Let's welcome VK Nagrani to Morning Barbados. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Tisha. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Well, a little tired, but other than that, well.
All right, you'll be just fine. You're up and ready to go. And as we think about what will be happening at Q in the community, I know that's going to pump some zest into you as well. So you are a board member of Worthing Square, and Worthing Square has literally, popped up over the last few years. It has been very, very popular with Barbadians, where you're able to go out in one space and experience so many different types of food. So tell me first of all about the space, and then let's talk about what we can expect from Q in the community.
Well, it's an amazing space. I moved here from New York a year and a half ago, and Worthing Square is it's also a part of something that is the future of dining and socializing. It's a casual, fun environment with some of the best food on the island, and you have so many international choices, from Middle Eastern to Mediterranean to Italian to Japanese, Indian, Venezuelan, and the list just keeps going on and on and on. And it's just so much fun to be at Worthing Square, and the entertainment every night is also a great way for people and families to spend an evening.
What do you think will set Q in the community at Worthing Square apart from the other Qs in the community, the other Q in the community events that we've put on over the years?
Well, this is my first time. This is my first experience.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is your first
so
Q?
I'm excited. I've heard
You
so
said you
many
only
great
came a year and a half ago.
Yes.
All right, so you're going to have to come back and tell us what the experience is like for you. How are the vendors prepping, though, for Q in the community? Because I know on a usual night, and I drive by, it could get quite busy, but knowing Q, I don't know how much they told you, but usually we have a lot of people who come out, and one of the hallmarks of Q is coming out to get some really great food and some good drinks.
Yeah, well, everyone's ready for this. They're excited. We're opening, most of the restaurants are going to be open from 11 a.m. So we're really excited about this opportunity.
All right, I don't know about the setup, but will we have an area for dancing? Because another hallmark of Q, I'm teaching you as we go along, another hallmark of Q is dancing.
Yeah. I saw a lot of the videos from the past events.
And I certainly hope that you and the others have been brushing up on your dancing. There's a lot of line dancing going on, but a lot of ballroom and stuff like that as well. I myself would have to bow out. I enjoy watching.
Well, most of us are going to be cooking, so making sure they have something to eat after they do all the dancing.
All right, so that definitely is an avenue in. You said most of us will be cooking. What will you be cooking?
I am cooking a take on Indian food. We have a cantina called Firebird in the back left corner, and it's like Indian-style tacos.
Indian-style tacos. Tell us more. What can we expect when we come to your particular neck of the woods?
You will expect a little bit of heat. It's Indian. It's a take on Indian food. I used a lot of my father's recipes and made them into a street food kind of concept.
All right, so street food with an Indian take definitely will be interesting. So you're starting at 11 o'clock in the day. Talk to us about the parking, because that area, like I told you, can get a little busy. So will people have to factor in movement a lot, or do you have special parking arrangements in place?
No, I mean, there's plenty of parking all around the area, so it is going to be really busy. So parking could be a little bit of an issue, but I think there's plenty of parking around the surrounding areas.
All right, good stuff. What are you looking forward to most on a personal level, apart from experiencing Q in the community for the first time? What are you looking forward to most first as a board member and someone who runs a part of the operation there, and then of course as a semi-newbie to Barbados and to Q in the community?
Well, I'm looking forward to share Worthing Square with so many new people and different people, and showing them what a wonderful place this is and how many different options they have when it comes to dining, the entertainment, and I think sharing this with the community is going to be a lot of fun. and people can really enjoy it. A lot of people that don't even know where Worthing Square is and what we have to offer are going to be quite surprised.
All right, I certainly hope you're prepared, and I will be looking for that take on Indian street food when I come to Q in the Community tomorrow at Worthing Square, starting from 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to let you go and continue prepping. I now know why you are feeling tired, because it's a lot of work. We're coming.
Yeah, I can't wait. We're looking forward to seeing you guys.
All right, good stuff. Thank you so much, board member of Worthing Square, VK Nagrani, and he's getting ready for Q in the Community tomorrow. I certainly hope you are ready for all of that. Even if you don't go to spend the entire day, I mean, Worthing Square, a perfect spot. Plan accordingly, take some orders from the office, and go on over and share some fun. DJ Scorpion, DJ Scotty, and DJ Ronnie Fresh will be rocking the place. Like he said, they get started around 11 a.m. And I think that is the perfect spot for Q this week. So make sure you are a part of it. You can also follow all the action on Q 100.7 FM. We're going to take another break and come back on Morning Barbados. Coming up, we are talking Human Resources Matters. You don't want to miss that.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 7:20 on a rainy Wednesday morning in Barbados. Certainly hope you're having a great day so far. So we're talking about some human resources matters. In this segment, we love to call Let's Talk HR, and we usually have Hermap in with us. Davina Lane is Executive Director of Intimate Hotels of Barbados. Good morning.
Good morning, and good morning, Barbados.
All right, great to have you with us. We're going to go straight into what we're talking about today, which is onboarding, something that a lot of people might not have heard about. So tell us a little bit more about that, and particularly what it is.
All right, so onboarding really is the process we get one that's new to the organization, that's been hired, how we get to speak, and during the onboarding process, and it really has opportunity to learn more about their role, about their colleagues that they would be working with, and of the organization. So within this process and that they need, they get all the tools that they need and any that they would need to do their job well. So it's really about helping the employee acclimatize to the new environment, new situation.
How is that different from orientation, which is what we heard a lot about before, or is it pretty much on par, just a new name?
No, well, actually, orientation, like a part of reading, but they're not same things. So when you may just do a day, or even a few hours. orientation is more general. So you actually numerous employee orientation and very little information about the company. But onboarding is where we get very specific into the nitty-gritty of the specifics of what we want to do, and that then can take several days, several weeks, even months to complete. So it's very specific to the employee. So orientation is a part of onboarding, but orientation and onboarding are not the same thing.
All right, got you. So I understand where you're coming from, because orientation can include, training and things of that nature. And when we talk about onboarding, I would imagine it's a little different, especially in this technological age. There's so much going on. Just for a new employee to come into an organization, all of a sudden, before you could come, somebody comes in, you give them an employee badge or something like that, and you say, okay, this is your desk, this is where you sit, and that's it. These days, things have really drastically changed, especially in the field of technology. When you think about it, you have to bring somebody in, you have to set up accounts, you have to create logins, and prepare all different types of paperwork as you maybe introduce them to programs that are specific to your particular organization, or, programs that they might not be familiar with, because a lot of organizations these days are using apps and programs that are built specifically for their areas of business. So all of those things are very interesting things that you definitely have to look in when you're talking about onboarding and getting that new hire onboarding checklist going. So if you have any questions, remember you can come on with us. You can share them to morningbarbados@cbc.bb. And these things are very, very important as we move forward in this environment, to make sure that for business owners, whether small business owners or medium or large businesses, that you are in step with what's happening around the globe with new practices in terms of how you're bringing employees into your organization. I know for me, in terms of hiring, if there's somebody new and they don't know anything about the organization that they're coming into, that's always a bit of a red flag for me. And so I would imagine it's an opportunity after the initial application and process, and then the hiring process, for the person to get to know a little bit more about the company and the culture of the company and things of that nature. So definitely some interesting stuff to look through. Other areas of onboarding might be the procurement of devices and equipment for that person. A lot of people, depending on the type of job you do, might need to be given telephones. You might need to set that up. Some people might be driving company vehicles. So there's a lot to do. Just the term, it sounds a little different from what we're accustomed to. So moving away from the simple orientation where someone is able to more or less walk into a business and sit at a desk and start working right away, thinking of this onboarding versus orientation, it definitely is a more holistic approach, the way that you welcome people into the business. And I said welcome for a specific reason as well. All right, so every week, remember, we talk human resources, and today we're talking about onboarding, just in case you are wondering exactly what we are talking about. So we're going to look at the benefits of an effective onboarding process for employees and for employers as well. And then, of course, it's interesting to look at how onboarding can affect remote teams, for example. So people who are not necessarily working in the office. I know you've been looking online, and sometimes you see a lot more of these remote work opportunities. So, how do you truly inculcate what your business expects, what the company culture is like, if it's someone who really never comes into the office or who is in the office 1 or 2 days a week. Very interesting things that we definitely will have to look at. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're having a few technical challenges, but we're going to try to connect again with Davina Lane, Executive Director of Intimate Hotels of Barbados, sharing in our Let's Talk HR segment. Today we're looking at onboarding, and if we're not able to reconnect with her, we certainly will have to pick up on another day. So we're going to take a break and come on back on Morning Barbados. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Welcome back. 7:29. Let's try to reconnect with Davina Lane. She's Executive Director of Intimate Hotels of Barbados. All right. Let's see if we can get you back in here. Specifically what we were talking about, technology. Sometimes it can be so good. Other times, a little shaky, and that's what's happening this morning. So let's see if we can reconnect with Davina and continue our discussion on onboard. There you are.
Tisha, thank you for your patience.
Absolutely. Well, I like talking, as you can tell.
You're in the right role.
All right, so let's get back to onboarding. Let's talk about some of the benefits to, all of the stakeholders, starting with benefits to employees of onboarding, getting them, what it sounds like to me is getting them on board with the company.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. So onboarding really helps employees to feel welcome. That's one thing. And when people feel welcomed, they get comfortable really quickly, and they can get to feel a part of company culture. Also, employees are more informed. They're more informed to do their job because you're now telling them all the things that are critical for them to be able to function in their role properly. And when people are informed, they tend to perform better, right? They also get motivated. Onboarding can increase their motivation levels as well, because the company appears to be investing in them, and their motivation levels are higher to be able to do what they need to do, and they also feel more engaged through the entire process. They feel valued and they feel engaged.
And I would imagine that it kind of preps them for what they can expect on coming into the business. A lot of people are blindsided sometimes when they come into a business, and they don't have a clue. So people come in and they're sitting around for a few days or sometimes even into weeks trying to figure out basic things. So let's talk now about onboarding for remote teams, which I would imagine can be a little different.
Yeah. So in this time, remote teams are really important. That's where the world has gone with the onset of COVID. And with remote teams, onboarding for remote teams really can help you to save time. You are able to send lots of documents up front, and you can spend spend the time that you need to focus on the employee rather than focus on admin tasks, right? So it minimizes you forgetting, like sending a document, that sort of thing. You can facilitate the hiring of remote workers in this way as well. And content is always up to date because the employee has access to the latest information. So any changes to the onboarding as well, you can upload for the remote team. So it really is important to onboard remote teams as well so that information is shared properly and then all the parties are integrated into the organization.
All right, let's talk about this onboarding checklist because I know there's no list that can be exhaustive when you're talking about welcoming new people into the business, but there certainly are a few that you want to make sure you check off on that list.
Right. So in addition to the key things that we're going to discuss now in terms of what you need to do, the key points to this for onboarding, we also need to make sure that we set objectives. What are the objectives for the onboarding process? Make sure you have those and make sure that you can set up a way to track whether you have achieved those objectives as well. But in terms of the things that you should consider at each phase, you want to make sure that you do what we call pre-boarding or pre-onboarding. And this is really something that you do before the new hire starts at the organization. So this may include all the things related to their contract, any legal documents, payroll, any company specific documents that they may have to use for their position. You need to do that before their arrival. So there is a pre-arrival checklist or information that you need to complete. So before the start date, the employee needs to know, well, who are my bosses, who are my co-workers, where they're going to perform their duties, the responsibilities of the job, and things related to the company culture as well. So the second thing then is that you plan out then the onboarding activities that you do. So you have the paperwork that you need to do, but you also need to really sit down and plan out, okay, well, what's the employee going to be doing in like their first week, for example. You want to make sure that the team is aware of the new employee, their start date, and you get the team on board as well. You get the person's space ready. If it's an office workstation, you need to make sure that you can get that ready as well. You want to make sure that you have some creative things for the employee. You don't want to have your onboarding dull and dry. So, get creative and allow them to like maybe have encourage the team to invite them out to lunch and that sort of thing so that they can really get comfortable quite quickly. So we had the pre-boarding, that's one. We had two is the planning out the onboarding activities. Three is really helping them to feel acquainted from day one. Make sure that they receive a warm welcome. Sometimes new people come and everyone else seems so grumpy. Make sure the person feels welcome. And, you give them a tour of the office, you introduce them. You can even pair them up with someone, pair them up with a buddy so that they have someone that they can go to if they have any questions that they don't necessarily want to go back to the supervisor for. All right. And then the fourth thing is to get the other team members to make sure that they're constantly checking in. And you also, as their supervisor, checking in on them just to make sure that they're feeling confident in their position with the work that they have to do, that they really feel incorporated into the company culture.
All right, that sounds like a comprehensive list, pretty much. So everything, like you said, from, prepping from before they get there to preparing them digitally and physically, introducing them to other members of staff, giving them maybe a buddy in the office to be able to guide them through certain things. And most importantly, you want to make sure that you can check in with them as well so they can offer their own feedback and make sure that they are comfortable. So I know that this can go a long way for really welcoming new employees into businesses. So onboarding, it is.
That's right. Onboarding really is critical. There are benefits for the employee and for the organization. You know, Tisha, it is said that there are global statistics that show that employees that are onboarded well will stay with the company for a while. So it's one of the ways that you can reduce your turnover and retain good people by really showing them right from the start that they're valued and that they're welcome. So we really encourage people to take the time and do a proper onboarding with their new hires.
All right, I want to thank you, Executive Director of Intimate Hotels of Barbados, Davina Lane. And, you know, they say the world is a cycle. Everything goes. I remember when I came here to CBC, they didn't call it onboarding then.
Yeah.
But, you know, hearing you talk about it, that was definitely my experience. When I came, I was able to spend time in different departments, so I understood the synergies that need to exist to be able to make, you know, everything function. It was just a really welcoming time for me and made all the difference. So I definitely can attest to what that means to new employees, particularly young people coming into a business. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for bearing with me as well.
Absolutely. We understand technology, and I recognize that you were sitting there with some plug-in cord in your hand. I didn't want to say anything on TV, but, you know, that's all with the times. Live TV. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. Have a great day.
And you. All right, good stuff. The time is moving swiftly along. It's just about 22 minutes now before the 8 o'clock hours. 22 minutes to go before 8 o'clock. We are going to get into our doc talk today. We are talking something a little different, and you might think it's very, very specific, but it's definitely something that you should know more about. Small kidney masses is what we're talking on today's Doc Talk. Dr. Paul Rose is joining us now. He is a urologist. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Barbados. Thanks for having me again this morning.
Good to see you.
I just wanted to talk. Yes, over the last couple of weeks, I've had a few patients with these small kidney masses. We would call them small renal tumors, but I'm keeping it as simple as possible. And understandably, patients get quite concerned about this. And I really thought I should bring it out into the public forum so that when they hear these things, really they usually start with their GPs, and then they usually, if we can start running the slides, I like to show the first slide, where a lot of the times patients will present to their GPs with abdominal pain, and they can't quite, put their finger on why they're having the pain. And then they do, usually in the first instance, it's usually an ultrasound scan of the abdomen. And then it shows that there are these small masses in the kidneys. The reason I put this slide up first is because this is probably the most common mass that they pick up incidentally, because it's incidental finding in the kidneys for abdominal ultrasound is not specifically related to the kidney, which is a small renal cyst. And what this is all about, this is a simple fluid-filled cystic structure within the kidneys. It can be quite small, as in this case, or in some cases it can be quite large, but they're totally benign, they're not cancerous. A lot of the times we can just safely reassure patients there's nothing to be concerned about, and therefore hopefully relieve their fears. A lot of times though, patients understand because they're having some symptoms, abdominal symptoms, they get a lot concerned, and a lot of the times they do ask me if I can remove that mass for them. And a lot of the times we do not need to remove that mass. We really don't, because it's quite small. It usually doesn't cause a problem. It's only if it's quite a big mass, when it then presses on other organs, then yes, we might remove that mass. But not because it's cancerous, but because it's just so big that it's causing usually abdominal discomfort, sometimes bloating or so when you eat, because it's just a huge mass just filling up your tummy.
Okay, Dr. Rouse, before you go on any further, what causes these cysts, these small masses that are found in the kidney?
So for the cysts, we think this is about how the kidneys develop fine tubules called nephrons, and you have part that is formed by the kidney itself, and then part which is formed by the drainage system. And we think that there's a disconnect between those tubes joining up, and then as time goes by, they start to the fluid starts to collect in the cyst and gets bigger and bigger with time. And as I said, it's totally benign. It's not cancerous. It's nothing to be concerned. Well, in general, nothing to be concerned about. But if it's big, compressing other organs, then yes. And usually, first port would be I would usually refer these patients over to my interventional radiology colleagues, and they will take that fluid off. That fluid from the cyst off. And if that relieves the symptoms, then we know on the right track. We've made the diagnosis. We've done the treatment, and a lot of times on the local anesthetic with maybe some sedation and not needing any major intervention. However, should the cyst recollect, and that whereas I will get involved, and I would what we call the deroofing of that cyst, where it will take the surface of that cyst away, and therefore then the fluid wouldn't collect anymore, and it can be absorbed by the body. Then we get something a little bit more solid. I'm not sure if you can show the next slide with the solid renal mass. This is the ones that get a little bit more concerning. But they're quite small again. Usually we consider small renal mass, it's less than about 3 centimeters. And the reason why they're usually not overly concerning when they're relatively small is that we know that for quite frankly, we were looking for kidney cancer in this instance, is that we know that small renal mass, small kidney tumors, once they're less than 4 centimeters, the risk of spread beyond the kidney is quite low. And several studies have shown this, and therefore we know that when we counsel patients with these small renal masses, we can safely tell them sometimes it's just quite safe just to monitor them. Certainly if they're 1-2 centimeters, I would very rarely intervene for that. But understandably, patients are get concerned about cancer, and rightfully so. And if needed, we can then go into, again, get my interventional colleagues to biopsy the mass. And if it is a cancer, then we have a discussion. There is good role to monitor these small renals or small kidney cancers. That's really if the biopsy comes back positive, and therefore no need to intervene right away. And especially if you're an elderly patient with significant medical problems, it's safer just to monitor these masses rather than to actually intervene.
What are some of the
younger patient?
What are some of the symptoms that we look out for?
Problem with these. Yeah, this is the problem with these small renal masses. They're totally asymptomatic. They very rarely cause any symptoms. Most of the time, they're picked up when we do an ultrasound scan or CT scan for another condition, and we then incidentally find these small renal masses. And understandably, they can be quite a worry and concern for patients, especially usually they have what we call non-specific abdominal symptoms, bloating sensation, maybe a change in bowel habit, a niggly, not necessarily overt pain, but sometimes abdominal discomfort. And it's very hard, it's very difficult to make the diagnosis that this is really causing the problem. So that's really how the difficulty comes in. And then that's why I have to get involved sometimes, just to reassure patients that it's nothing sinister and therefore do not necessarily need to be removed. However, as I said, sometimes they do come back when we do the biopsy, come back showing that they're cancerous. And then if the patient has a very long life expectancy, they're fit and well and have a life expectancy, I would say, well over above 5 to 10 years, then therefore, because if it's a small cancer, there's plenty of time for that to progress, to become bigger, and then potentially going to be problematic, then that is when we would offer to remove that small renal mass for patients. And there's several ways we can do this.
Okay. Do kidney cysts affect men and women in different ways?
No, it's actually quite the same. We anticipate because the ready availability now of ultrasonography and CT scan, that about 10-20% of the population have these small cysts, and sometimes these small solid lesions, and it's clearly not causing any trouble. And quite frankly, we just leave them alone. That's why we say that a lot of the times, more than 50% of the times now, they're picked up incidentally. We do a scan for something else. So they're usually quite asymptomatic, and there's nothing specific that you've done or not done that have caused you to develop these cysts.
Well, that's why it's important to have, structured yearly exams so you find out exactly what's happening with your body. What length of time would it take for one of these small masses to develop for someone who maybe has had an ultrasound or something of a sort? Maybe say, oh, I had an ultrasound maybe a year ago. Does it take a long time to form?
It's a little bit tricky. We don't have what we call the natural history, a lot of studies related to this, but the general consensus is given that the cysts, this is again for the benign cysts, they're totally benign. We usually just reassure patients, let them know they have that, and if there's problems in the future, then we can rescan them. So that is why we are convinced that it's a small, once it's a cystic, once it's a simple cyst and nothing more. It was a lot more complex, where, as I said, where it's a more solid lesion. Although we might not necessarily intervene right away, we would monitor those patients. So depending on our level of concern, maybe every 6 months to a year, we'd have a repeat imaging, either ultrasound or CT scan, to monitor the mass. If it's getting bigger, then yet obviously we get a little bit more concerned about cancer, then we would prompt biopsy and potentially prompt intervention. But actually a lot of these small solid lesions are not cancerous. Depending on what study you look at, up to a third to 50%, a half, can be actually benign cysts. Again, like an adenoma or so of the kidney, angiomyolipoma. These are some of the benign lesions of the kidney that don't really need any intervention because they're not cancerous. And very rarely they cause symptoms. So if you have a cyst, yes, sometimes if you have some trauma or so to the abdomen, you might bleed into the cyst and then it can cause pain. But again, that once you manage that conservatively, a lot of times you don't need to intervene from a surgical point of view. So those angiomyolipomas are...
Okay, and as we wrap up, just a few tips from you on good kidney health.
Good kidney health is, especially given our high prevalence of chronic kidney disease here in Barbados, is making sure that you manage your diabetes, manage your hypertension very well, manage your high cholesterol, dyslipidemias, and that is really within the remit of the general practitioners. But regular exercise, good diet, the usual things that you need for a healthy lifestyle is also key to healthy kidney health.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paul Rouse. You know, went a little quickly there, but I think we got the gist of it.
Yes.
You know, and I think that's a good place for us to end, reminding people that taking care of your body in a holistic way is what's important to, you know, your general health, but you have to look out for your specific organs as well. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you again for having me. Good morning, Barbados.
This, of course, has been Doc Talk. Do join us again next week when we bring you another very interesting topic or part of the body that you have to take care of.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
With just 9 minutes to go before 8 o'clock, we are talking cybersecurity at this time. And I know this is a hot topic. A lot of people are looking into this. So Anthony Harris, who is Vice President of the Information Systems Security Association Barbados chapter, is joining us this morning. Good morning. Welcome.
Hey, good morning. Nice to be here.
Good to have you. Let's start with, you know, the big elephant in the room. How concerned should people be about data privacy or security when they go online and share their data, whether on social media or just by doing general day-to-day tasks, banking, signing up on websites, buying clothes or other implements online?
They should be very concerned. It is we tend to not think of online security as real security. The things that we would do in the natural world, we want to do in the online world. For instance, we share so much information on Facebook. Even the police have their ads about sharing information whereby even your children, you're going on vacation, your children are posting that we are going to be traveling to X place, and and obviously nobody's going to be home. So you're giving people an inside track into your lifestyle. And once people can track you, people can make plans for you. One of the things I would show you here is a smart tag. This smart tag, if placed on your person in your vehicle, will allow a person to track you using your own cell phone and the cell phone network. So people have to be very concerned, and especially with the density of cell phones in Barbados, your information can end up in just the wrong hands. And you as a public figure would notice more than others that your private personal information is something that you cherish. It has value to certain people. So you need to treasure your personally identifiable information.
And most people don't even think about it, which is amusing when it comes to things like when we talk about data privacy and we talk about, you know, a few visible things that maybe come to the fore through the calling programs or what have you, as opposed to going online and sharing all of their information. So you go to a website and you give them you know, your first and last name, you tell them what your mother's your maiden name, what's your mother's name, you know, where you live, you have your location settings on, and then you wonder why you would say, you would do a search for shirts, and all of a sudden every small business that sells shirts all of a sudden is sending you information. It's because all of your information is out there. So what can we do to protect ourselves? First of all, using our devices, because a lot of people are using their devices just for very basic things. So telephone calls, they're on social media and so on, but they're not going into the settings and making sure that their information isn't being immediately shared. So what needs to be done to be able to configure these devices? So first of all, we are not overly sharing our information.
Well, first thing is the level of education. You need to educate yourself on how to protect yourself. One of the issues, one of the things that ISSA does is we offer to educate persons. If you go to our website, click on our contact us page, you can fill in the information or send an email to info@barbados.isa.org, and we're willing to come out to you, whether it be virtual or in person, and start that education process. One of the things you should do with your camera settings is disable your geotagging. When you take your photos and your photos are geotagged and you share them on Facebook or other media, you're exposing yourself. One of the other things is that we need to have more regulation, whereby when your data is breached, if you signed up with a site in the US, this is a regular thing where when their databases are breached, they usually send out notices to their customers. In Barbados, you don't have such legislation really that is enforced, that if your data is breached, that you receive an email or notification saying, hey, be careful, your information is out there on the dark web. Just be careful, monitor your credit, monitor any loans that may come up, any suspicious emails you may receive that you did not really initiate. So the education and awareness whereby the person becomes a human firewall, because the technology will always change, but the mindset you must have whereby you are the human firewall, you guard your own information. That is where the real magic happens in order to protect yourself.
Listen, Mr. Harris, we can't even begin to get into security in a major way, because, I mean, there's so much ground to cover when it comes to really taking care of not only your business and employees, but on a personal level. You really need to start with you. It really needs to start with you. And the amount of information we share now, knowingly or unwittingly so, is just so major. So when we come back, I want to talk about the activities that you'll be celebrating for Cybersecurity Month as we wrap up for today. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
On cybersecurity awareness, what are the activities that we can expect throughout the month?
Okay. The SSA is about 12 years old, and we are celebrating Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And our activities, we're looking at our social media posts. We're going to have a virtual presentation in Secure Barbados later this month, and we're going to focus on how Barbados is attacked, ransomware, keeping our seniors safe. With the advent of COVID, our seniors have been pulled online, and we need to be able to make sure they are as safe as possible. Also, Barbados is on the increase for cyber attacks. We've had a number of cyber attacks that have made the papers. The ones that have not made the papers, no one keeps a track of. We've seen cyber attacks all across the region. Major facilities, distribution centers are being attacked by cyber. So everybody has something that's worth protecting. And that's where cybersecurity comes in, where we want to be able to protect those assets, or what we will call the crown jewels. So yeah, we are here to help, and we also looking for membership. If you send a note to the info at barbados.isa.org, we're always looking for good people who are willing to come on board to help protect this nation. This nation needs to be protected.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for coming through and starting the conversation. We definitely have to have you back. Because we've not even touched the tip of the iceberg. Mr. Anthony Harris has been in cybersecurity for over 2 decades, and he has a particular affinity for and especially trained in cyber resilience. We'll talk to you about that on another show. That's it for today. Coming up tomorrow, we tell you what the Seroptimists will be doing for their 60th anniversary. And of course, we're talking about sight, keeping it and maintaining it as we look toward World Sight Day. We also celebrate a few exceptional youth and more. Do remember to wear your smiles today. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up.